Welcome to Lands of Stakes, where we explore the complex geopolitical landscapes shaping our world. Today, we're diving into the stark realities of the Iranian regime. For some time, Iranian officials have frequently appeared on American media, loudly proclaiming that this war is unjustified and illegal. However, I suspect those appearances are about to become less frequent. Just recently, a spokesperson for the Iranian Foreign Ministry was directly confronted about the massacre the Iranian government carried out back in January, and he was utterly unable to provide a coherent answer. Take a listen to this revealing exchange. When leading human rights groups like Amnesty International accuse your government of massacring protesters, when they state they have reviewed verified videos and eyewitness accounts of security forces positioned on the streets and on the rooftops of buildings, including houses, mosques, and police stations, repeatedly firing rifles and shotguns loaded with metal pellets at protesters, frequently targeting their heads and torsos. When Amnesty, a group not aligned with the U.S. or Israeli governments, makes these claims, why should we believe your government and not Amnesty? Why should we believe Amnesty and not? But they've documented the evidence. You're saying you don't even have the numbers. They've provided evidence, verified videos, and eyewitness accounts. You can simply see many of those so-called pieces of evidence and videos being provided to them by Israeli and United States sources. Look, they haven't been provided by Israel. Israel, in fact, criticizes Amnesty in the same way you do. I've interviewed Israeli officials, and they accuse Amnesty of presenting fake evidence. I'm sorry to say, you sound like an Israeli official denying what happened in Gaza. These are eyewitness accounts, doctors' accounts. You compare Iran's peaceful traits to Gaza. Come on. No, I'm comparing your response, denying a human rights group. I'm not quoting the U.S. or Israeli governments. I agree with you. The U.S. and Israeli governments are not reliable when it comes to Iran. I'm quoting an independent human rights group. I'm not sure they are independent. Otherwise, they would have come and told the stories of many innocent Iranians that have been killed during the past 27 days. They didn't. Okay, so what I'm saying is that, in all honesty, the government, the president's office, published the names of those who were killed during this protest, and we were transparent about who killed them. We said that 2,400 of them were regarded as martyrs because they were killed either by gunmen or they were police officers or innocent bystanders. And you can say that, yes, 600 of them were either infiltrators or those gunmen. But what about the eyewitness accounts of people being brought into hospitals, their heads and faces shot full of pellets by Iranian security forces? Human Rights Watch has documented that. Amnesty International has documented that. Multiple media outlets have reported it. Are you saying all these eyewitnesses are lying? That it's all fake? I'm not saying all of them are lies. I have to see them. And I'm sure that our authorities are taking care of every report that has been produced implicating our security forces. What's truly disturbing is not just the official's inability to provide a satisfactory answer because, frankly, what could he say? He's never going to admit that the regime would rather kill thousands of Iranians than relinquish power. The more shocking revelation is that Iranian officials have been engaging in this pattern of denial ever since negotiations began in February, when the U.S. started discussing a new nuclear deal with Iran. Yet not a single major news network during that period asked questions about the massacre. Thankfully, we are finally seeing these crucial questions being posed. In fact, independent human rights groups have confirmed that security forces were entering hospitals, instructing doctors not to treat wounded patients, but rather to report them to security officials. This was corroborated by a doctor in Tehran who received such an order. Moving on, we have another clip that sheds light on the Iranian dictatorship, or perhaps more accurately, how the Islamic regime has now transformed into a monarchy where power is passed within the family. This is something the Islamic regime's founder, Ayatollah Khomeini, deeply opposed. He wrote extensively about how an Islamic Republic could not become a dictatorship, as that was precisely what the Islamic Revolution was meant to overthrow. Again, We don't get a straight answer here. I apologize if the video cuts out. That's not an error on our part, but how the original interview was. I suspect it's because Tehran is still shutting down the internet, so anyone trying to circumvent these restrictions, even Iranian officials, faces challenges due to the ongoing shutdown. While it would have been ideal for a question about internet access to arise here, it didn't. I'll show you a different clip where it does come up, but for now, listen to this exchange. You had massive protests in Iran back in January, demanding a change of government, and for many, an end to the Islamic Republic's theocratic model of government in particular. Why does your government refuse to listen to the demands of the people? Why replace one unelected supreme leader who ruled for nearly 40 years with another unelected supreme leader whom the Iranian people didn't choose, had no say over? How is your country not a dictatorship? This is not true again. He is not an unelected leader. He was elected by the Assembly of Experts, and the Assembly of Experts are elected by polls by the people. This is where the deception becomes quite sophisticated. The regime is structured to appear democratic. Iranian people do indeed elect the Assembly of Experts, a group of 88 clerics who run for election just like politicians in other countries. But here's the critical detail. The supreme leader has absolute authority over who can run for election and who cannot. He simply outlaws or bans anyone who opposes him from running, only allowing trustworthy individuals to participate. This ensures that the Islamic regime remains under the control of the same power-holding group that has governed since 1979. This small, entrenched group has ruled for so long that they genuinely believe they represent the Iranian people, despite the vast majority of Iranians clearly indicating, as seen in the January protests, that they do not want them ruling the country. The leaders, however, simply refuse to acknowledge this reality. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, the Iranian foreign minister was asked this exact question in a TV interview. He was essentially asked, "You have internet access, you get on these interviews and spread your propaganda worldwide, but the Iranian people don't have internet. It's been more than a month since the internet was shut down. What is that all about?" Just listen to his answer. "I just want to point out, you're speaking to us via Zoom. The Iranian people don't have open internet access, but you do. Why?" "Well, I am the voice of Iranians, and I have to defend their rights. So this is why I have access to the internet, to just have our voice heard by the international community. But the internet is closed because of security reasons, because we are under attack, we are under aggression, and we have to do everything to protect our people." As you might imagine, Gulf states do not share Iran's perspective on these matters. At the beginning of this war, many Gulf states were vehemently against it. They even prohibited the United States from using military bases located in their countries and denied access to their airspace. Yet despite this, Iran continued to launch attacks against these countries, which were not directly involved in the conflict. Furthermore, Iran wasn't just targeting U.S. bases, it began striking civilian infrastructure, such as malls, ports, airports, and hotels. For another example of Iran's inconsistent logic, consider their attacks on Oman, a country that hosts no U.S. military bases, yet Iran continues to target its ports and oil tankers. The reason for this strategy is straightforward. Iran's objective is not merely to inflict pain on countries supporting the United States. Its goal is to inflict pain on everyone, to ensure the world suffers. This, they believe, will create more pressure on the United States to end the war. This is precisely why they are attacking tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. No tanker is directly assisting the United States in carrying out these attacks, but Iran targets them to amplify global economic hardship. However, for Iranian officials, this plan is spectacularly backfiring. These Gulf states are not crumbling under the pressure. Instead, they are increasingly recognizing the profound threat Iran poses to the region and to regional security. Consequently, instead of pressuring the United States to end the war, they are now lobbying the U.S. not to end it. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait are actively pressuring the United States government to ensure there is no ceasefire until Iran's full range of capabilities is taken care of. I'm sure you understand what taken care of implies. They want to ensure that Iran's entire spectrum of threats, including its nuclear capabilities, missiles, drones, and even terrorist proxies, no longer poses a problem for regional countries after this conflict. They firmly believe that a ceasefire which fails to address all these issues would not bring peace to the region. It would merely delay the next crisis.